will represent Malaysia to go to Monte Carlo next year. EY Entrepreneur of the Year 2014 Malaysia Award goes to Mr. Goh Bing Wei, Silver Lake Assist.
So, Mr. Goh, thank you so much for making time to speak to us. We value the time that you're giving us. And the interesting thing about yourself, Mr. Goh, is that you won our Technology Award in 2005. And you came back 9 years later to win the Country Award in 2014. Yeah. So that's probably the only entrepreneurs who have done that after a long period of time. And obviously it means that you have sustained excellence in what you have done. So maybe share with us, if you go back to 2005, what was the feeling then when you won the Technology Award, and how do you fast forward to when you won 2014?
Well, I think 2005, winning the Technology Award, I think it is something that recognize our, commitment to technology. And of course, at that time, 2005, I don't think many people understand or think that Silver Lake will be one of the top companies in ASEAN. So looking back, today, of course, Silver Lake is very dominant in all the banking and finance institutions. And it is important to understand the measurement today compared to the traditional measurements of profit and loss. So the measurement today is about platform. Now platform, therefore, Google, therefore, Amazon.com, people have forgotten that Amazon.com actually started as selling books. But what they managed to do was to transform themselves to platform. So if you look at all the top companies in this world today, everyone is moving towards platform, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Google, whether it's Amazon.com, and Facebook is struggling to be a platform. Whether they can or cannot, in fact, will determine whether Facebook will be around. 2005, of course, is not many people really know what Silver Lake is all about. And as you can see below Silver Lake's logo, symmetry at work. Actually, that is basically a symmetric platform. So right from the first day, we already determined that we're going to build a platform. And basically, symmetry means 360-degree platform. And at 2005, it will be quite difficult for people to grasp who we are. So that was an interesting time looking back.
Yeah, it's interesting, Mr. Goh. It looks like, if I may say, Silver Lake is probably always ahead of its timeline in that sense, right? Because 2014, maybe 9 years later, do you think that people understood Silver Lake better, or it just came out that you had proven to everyone that platform and whatever you're doing is the way forward? How do you feel about the 9 years later winning the Country Award?
I think that most people look at share prices and look at your net worth and lesser of what actually you are doing. So 2014 was the time where our share prices was going up, and of course that can be said as a milestone, because, like it or not, being a unicorn then is still the earliest unicorn, because around that time we were valued at about 3.4 billion US.
Mhm.
And most likely is the biggest and the first unicorn around that time. Now, so that leads to a very interesting question. So what we are doing since 2014,
Mhm.
and that one I think we can talk about it as we go.
Okay. So, Mr. Goh, maybe I pivot back to 2014, right? You represented us at the World Entrepreneur of the Year as Malaysia's Entrepreneur of the Year in the 2015 World Entrepreneur of the Year Awards. Maybe you can just share with us so that everyone who watches this chapter will appreciate what your experience was in Monte Carlo.
Well, I mean, it's always good to have a gathering of equals and sharing views, agree and disagree is fine. Getting together, knowing what other people are doing, it's less of the so-called recognition, but more of exposure, more of interconnecting. And 2015 was actually really our peak. In a way, it marked a time in Silver Lake. So it was quite a interesting time where we were recognized by E&Y, by share market.
So almost everything came into place at the same time.
Correct.
Yes.
So it was interesting. Yeah.
And I do remember that at that point in time, there were many people who were quite interested to understand what Silver Lake was doing and whatever not. So maybe coming back to your point earlier, Mr. Goh, maybe you can share with us what has Silver Lake been doing and how has it been extending its growth since then? And you talked about platform and so on. Maybe you can share with us a little bit.
Yeah. So after that, around that time, we were hit by a short seller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this was anonymous, not the formal type of short seller.
Right.
Where we can trace it to our competitor.
Right.
So it's sort of hitting under the belt. But of course, it's really not something that we are worried about.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason was actually because that Silver Lake was formed in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
So by the year 2015, it's already 25 years old.
5 years. Yeah.
And reaching a peak at 25 years old, I think it has marked a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And any peak, you will actually come down whichever way, right? Because you have to come down because you are reinvesting, or you have to come down because you are forced to come down.
Right.
So in a way, short selling, while may not be very good for our shareholders,
Mm-hmm.
but of course the shareholders could have sold it and make profit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they bought it at about 20-something cents and they receive at least 2-3 times the dividend of their investment. Of course, if you are the last one in and you will hit the last minute, then of course that I wouldn't comment on that.
Yeah. But you have been there from earlier days.
Yeah, for a lot of people, actually they can get out profitably. Of course, the short selling was with very bad intention,
Mm-hmm.
and SGX totally understand that. That was the reason why it was relatively easy between SGX and us. It was more to ensure that that nothing mentioned is true,
Mm-hmm.
and that process in a way is good. It's always good to go and look at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, it allows us to consolidate.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important when you have a long journey and you need to actually reconsolidate, not only from people's point of view, from management point of view, from organization point of view, from financial point of view, from R&D point of view. There were a lot of reconsolidation.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it is the new journey that we are going to start. So you have heard that we announced a fund.
Mm-hmm.
Through 2015, we finally come to the conclusion that public market, especially in Asia, do not understand what is R&D.
Mm-hmm.
And being an accounting company, you know that actually a very profitable profitable company can lose money if they do a lot of R&D.
Yes.
So all your profit can actually go to R&D and more,
Yes.
and can end up negative. And that was what Amazon.com did. Amazon.com always lose money all the time until they reach the status of platform. They reach a status of platform, they let go. And that is today's Amazon.com. But as written under the logo of Silver Lake, it's very clear we are a platform company. We already announced right from the first day. That was 1990. We already announced, and I purposely put the logo, the symmetry at work below Silver Lake. Now, I do not want people to come and say, well, now Amazon.com, now you say you are a platform, okay? So, but if you go back and look at all the logo printed, then there are millions of them, right? And all of them has symmetry at work. So it was obvious right from the first day we planned to be a platform. But what is a platform? And that obviously was the problem for the shareholders, for the short seller, our competitor who doesn't know what we are doing. Right? Because now, what we aim, we knew we are an application. We have decided long ago that we will not compete with our customers. And so, if you are not going into running a bank, if you are not going to into running a financial company, are getting a license for digital bank, and if you are not going to do all this, so what is your future? At the peak, 2014-15, right? And when we were 3.4 billion in valuation, and at that time that is actually very, all companies that you mentioned are actually smaller than us.
Yeah.
Right. So at the peak, the question is, where are you going? How are you to reach that? Right. But we already announced that we are a symmetric company. We are a platform company. Now, basically, when we say symmetry at work, we are talking about covering 360 degree and in assisting our clients. Because since we are not going to compete with our clients, we have to benefit from helping them. But how can we help them? Now that of course the word is symmetry, right? And that is very clear. We can help them through symmetry. But from economy point of view, it's very simple. Then we have supply side, we have the demand side. Now that will form 180 degrees. Let's say supply side is 90 degree, demand side is 90 degree. Then we have the technology side, which is 90 degree. Then you have the fund side, which is 90 degree. Now you need to, of course, we are as a supply vendor, we are of course very established. We are number one in insurance, we are number one in banking, we are number one in retail, we are number one in many things. Definitely we are very established supply vendor. On the demand side, we are going for cloud. We have various type of demand companies. The good thing about Silver Lake was we were lucky that we were able to make so much money, even though we started with $1. And in fact, we dividend out 620 something million US dollar, even though we started with $1. And today, Silver Lake is still cash rich. So we need a China wall that can value ourselves. Okay, and that was the forming of the Jazz Fund, and which was announced in December last year.
Yep.
And of course, we also tied up with E-Class Fund, which was announced slightly earlier than that. Now, so basically today, Silver Lake is looking at fund side, demand side, supply side, and technology side. Now we are talking about cloud collaboration with Microsoft, IBM, and we are talking about demand side collaboration with many quite large companies.
It's a amazing story, and you have covered so many of the questions I want. And the interesting part, I'm happy to note that hopefully the award at 2015, as you say, was the pinnacle of your S-curve. Hopefully it was a time for you to reset, as you mentioned, and relook at the organization. And I think timing was pretty good, right? Because you had COVID and all that, so you had time to look at your whole platform revamp and relook and so on. And I'm glad to see that you're so energetic and positive about the way forward. Mr. Goh, what advice would you give? I know that you mentioned platform is the way forward and so on, but what advice would you give entrepreneurs who either are in technology or not in technology as they go forward? How would you advise them to look at their business and thrive, in this very different environment that we're in?
Well, I think time has changed. So that is one very important thing to remember. There is the time has changed from the supply side to demand side. The mental mindset has to change, and so even a small grocery still have to think about why and what and how. And why? Because before you know it, well, the whole market disappear.
Yeah.
And not knowing why, you could end up one day wake up and find the market disappear. And that's called end of life. Okay. And if a company always think of end of life of their products, and if Fujifilm, if Kodak think about their end of life of their products, of course they should know that no product lasts forever. The question is, do they have an end of life function in Kodak? Was there an end of life function in Fujifilm? I don't think so. If there was, they wouldn't be so caught unprepared.
Yeah.
And that basically, I call it future readiness. So that would be my advice to anyone, whether it's as big as a country or as small as a top retail store, is the big environment of moving from supply side to demand side. Okay? And the mental mindset that not staying with just one. Okay.
What, why, and end of life. I like that very much.
Yeah.
Mr. Goh, thank you so much for your time. It's been very valuable, as I expected. I just have to ask you one question, and you give us many pearls of wisdom from your sharing. And I'd like to thank you very much for all you have done with us and you continue to do with us. And wish Silver Lake Symmetry at Work and your platform to grow and hopefully become much bigger impact on the world. And wish you all the best in your endeavor.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Take care, Mr. Goh. All the best.
Yeah. Yep. Take care. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.